On today's episode of the Bulletproof for BJJ podcast, find out how Craig Jones is the new Vince McMahon, how Craig Jones is using the World Wrestling Federation's playbook to take over the world of Jiu-Jitsu. Is Gabby Garcia the new Andre the Giant? Also, the Tackett brothers, are they the baby faces who are actually the real villains of submission grappling? And last but not least, when are we going to see Brock Lesnar at the CJI? Let's start now. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof for BJJ podcast. Craig Jones is the new Vince McMahon. I said it. That's right. Mr. McMahon is a new Netflix documentary. For those of you out there who love pro wrestling, you're probably all over it. But I'm telling you, I just started watching it in a very weird, synchronous way. Joe also started watching it
last night.
And that playbook, the playbook of Vince McMahon to take over wrestling in the United States in the 80s is the same playbook Craig Jones is doing right now. And we need to talk about it.
Yeah, I think this is one of the rare occasions where I agree with you, JT.
Oh, it's about time. It's only taken us 4.5 years. Jesus.
Yeah, here we are.
15 years. Here's the deal, folks. If you haven't seen it, Mr. McMahon is a very interesting documentary, docu-series where they did a series of interviews with the man. Now, we're both only very early on. I watched 1.5 episodes.
Yeah, I watched one.
And it's literally started last night.
Yep.
So we don't know too much, but if you look very closely, this is what I'd like to raise.
Well, wait, before you raise it, let's give a bit more background about the show and Vince.
Sure.
Because there's going to be, I mean, for sure, I'm sure all the American listeners are like, yeah, we know the story.
Yeah, he's a legend.
But for everyone else, like, wait, who's this?
Yeah, but the thing that is so interesting about Vince McMahon, as much as he was the guy who took it, from a obscure to the side, like pro wrestling was all over America, but it wasn't unified. They didn't have like an NBA or an NFL of that. There wasn't like a national thing. It was all regional. And
it was like a feudal system, if you will.
Yeah, like certain
Your
fiefdoms.
territory. Yeah, that's right.
You're in Georgia. I'm up north. You stay over there. And he just went, you know what? F all that. I am taking over. And the massive thing that he did, and you know, a lot of it, they talk about Hulk Hogan and the influence of the Hulkster brother, who is possibly the most famous wrestler other than, say, The Rock. He's like so well known, his legacy. And they even say in the documentary, if it wasn't for the Hulk, it would have been very hard for Vince McMahon to do what he did.
Yeah, that was like an integral character in the story.
Mr. USA, you know? And I feel that his power grab, which is what Vince goes for. He's going to take over wrestling America-wide. He goes into other organizations, steals their best athletes. Imagine, what does this remind me of?
The money is too good to refuse. They literally say, they're like, the wrestler gets a phone call and they're like, I'm going over.
I'm going across.
Does that ring a bell?
Does it? And then he's like, well, I don't care about all these other organizations. This is America, baby.
Well, yeah, that's right. And it was based on more of a gentleman's, like it was an old boys system, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it was like, we've agreed that you have that territory and, you know, we have this.
Yeah.
And Vince is just this new generation guy that's like, F that. I'm just going to make this way more awesome. It's going to be huge. It's going to make heaps of money. And the wrestlers, and I'm going to pay the wrestlers better. I mean, it's not about paying the wrestlers better in his story. It is about, I'm just going to get as much power as I can.
Taking over. But the interesting thing, this is what stood out to me more than anything. Now, I am not a pro wrestling guy. I wasn't raised on it. I wasn't allowed to watch it. I only got to see it if I was hanging out with my mates.
It's pretty odd, I think, to Australians. We don't have a lot of culture of it here, right?
So popular. I mean, there are pro wrestlers in Australia, definitely.
Yeah.
But in terms of the impact in the 90s,
I used to train with one and he's a f***ing savage on the mats, to be honest.
The WWF was such a big thing.
Shout out to Dr. Kasai.
Shout out. The thing that struck me, and this is what I was just sitting there and I was like, holy shit, this is even bigger than I had thought. What Vince McMahon started doing was putting his wrestlers in entertainment situations. He started a night talk show like TNT, and he had them like doing cooking.
Yeah, skits.
Just skit like stuff.
It looked like Saturday Night Live kind of stuff.
Yeah, and people are like, this is not wrestling. What is this? He was building the personalities, the show, the melodrama, which is really what makes the entertainment factor.
Yeah, and it's what he called sports entertainment.
Right.
Which was a clear sort of just clear separation from sports, which is that kind of wrestling already has a large entertainment aspect, doesn't it? Like at the thing, but I don't think anyone else was doing stuff outside of the arena.
No.
Whereas he created like this whole world that existed outside of the actual sports events.
And doing collaborations, right? Like he, like I said, no spoiler alert, but he reaches to MTV. He tries to find other stars and talk show hosts and people for him to engage with, as well as the wrestlers to engage with some mixed results, mind you. I'm not going to say too much there, but they have some very close near misses because some people are hating on the WWF at that time.
Sure, but when you got to try some shit, you're not always going to hit it out of the park, are you?
That's right.
I mean, so that idea of bringing on the collaborators so that he could then get the fan base of that collaborator to have eyes on his sport and vice versa.
And if we look at another person who's done this very well and just totally borrowed from Vince McMahon's playbook, Dana White, when he got over, when he brought Brock Lesnar to the UFC, he's like, I'm getting all those WWE fans.
Yep.
And it's true, right?
Yep.
Brock is still considered to be one of the most popular UFC fighters, even though he's just one of the most popular figures going around. And then
They do it when they ran that recent Noche event.
Yeah.
Which is like a Mexican themed event, which of course, like Mexico is obviously very important. It's America's
as
neighbor
a
and
fan
whatnot.
base.
But it's like they do things like that to really bring that market across, don't they?
So let's talk about Craig Jones and the CJI, because CJI is WrestleMania 1 to my mind. When you look at the bet that Vince McMahon took on WrestleMania 1, like mortgaging his house, doing all this stuff for this big show to really show everyone this is the Super Bowl, this is the best version of this. That is what Craig Jones did with entertainment, with spectacle, with the money he put on the line, with everything he did, going on all the podcasts. I see it as a direct parallel to what Vince McMahon did with Hulk Hogan and also
Andre the Giant.
But also his partner was Mr. T. I pity the fool.
Yes. Yeah, which that was a bit of because Mr. T wasn't a wrestler, was he? He was a movie guy.
Well, he was a movie guy, but
as a person, call him an actor.
As a personality, he was, because
he was huge, but he wasn't a pro wrestler.
But they made him one. In that vein. And then also Vince McMahon was smart enough to see the celebrity of Hulk Hogan explode after Rocky 3.
Yeah.
And so you just go, man, that's genius. And we can all admit to the genius of Craig Jones's marketing.
Oh, you can't dispute it. So the WrestleMania thing, for context, because I only learned this last night. I never knew the difference about any of this shit, but WrestleMania at that time was like they had regular wrestling events which were played on like closed circuit television, or they were played on TV. But then they're like, we're going to do this one massive event where we get everyone watching it. They ran this interesting closed circuit TV thing, which was a thing of TV back then. But basically they're like, like you said, this is going to be the Super Bowl and we're going to put all of our eggs in one basket and this either makes or breaks us, because it would have cost them a shitload, right?
Yeah.
And they had all the stars, it was just everything was laid on, right? And when you compare that to CJR, it's like, yeah, like Craig put everything on that event and pulled it off.
Yeah.
If he didn't pull it off, like if it was shit, it would be very hard to know
come back.
Yeah, where that puts him now, right? So there was a huge gamble taken by Craig in that.
Definitely. He staked his reputation on it, definitely.
Yeah. I've had that situation a couple of times recently where I've come to training with some water, but I haven't had any electrolytes, and I've finished training and I've had to go to a convenience shop and buy myself some kind of sports drink, usually a Gatorade. Cost me like $7. It's small and it really doesn't contain that much of the good stuff that I'm looking for, which are the electrolytes. Sodi, on the other hand, is my partner when it comes to hydration, and I'd simply just run out of it. And it sucks because I got to go buy expensive stuff that doesn't do anywhere near as good a job. I'm super stoked that we've been restocked with the Sodi, and now I can be properly hydrated when I train jiu-jitsu. This has always been an underexplored aspect of my training, and I'm so stoked that we now have these guys in place to support us and also the listeners of the show. So if you want to be hydrated on the mats so that you can perform at your best and have the best mental clarity while training, get yourself some SODI. Go to sodi.com.au. That's SODII.com.au. Get yourself some delicious hydration salts and use the code Bulletproof15 for 15% off. Go to sodi.com.au. Get yourself hydrated.
But then I was looking at the characters, because this is the thing. One of the wrestlers, I can't remember which gentleman it was, he said it was less about the wrestling and it was more about the drama and the personalities. It wasn't that the wrestling was the best. It wasn't. But the beefs and the hype and everything, that's what got people in. And even Hulk was saying that, yeah, it wasn't just like old guys drinking whiskey, smoking cigars. It was kids. It was families.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing, because then there was merchandising and it just becomes a much bigger business. And then what do you know? He's got Cindy frickin' Lauper in there, and she's not really wrestling. She's kind of coaching.
Yeah.
But then she's got her representative in there. But then she's like hitting a girl and clocking another guy, and you're like, this is absolutely bananas.
So had Liberace as the timekeeper.
I love that.
Right.
They had Muhammad Ali as a referee.
Muhammad Ali, yeah, like wild, right?
Yeah.
Danny DeVito's backstage. Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol looking a lot like Jeremy Paul Skinner.
Dog.
Shout out.
Yeah, it had everyone was there as far as you could tell.
As an event.
Yeah.
Entertainers, everything. And I was thinking, Gabby Garcia, is she Hulk? Is she Andre the Giant? Like, it's this.
Well,
and I say this in full respect. I love Gabby. She's awesome. Full respect. But it's this kind of freak show. It's like
sideshow
this is
aspect.
the biggest, strongest woman in jiu-jitsu. You know, that in itself, people are like, yo, could she just crush Craig's head off? It's possible.
Yeah, the Craig Gabby match was a total sideshow.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, this is like a circus thing. It's absurd.
But it gets people chatting, right?
Oh yeah, it's super exciting and ridiculous and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that parallel between whether it is Andre the Giant or Hulk,
Yeah.
and Gabby Craig thing is just bang on.
But the more I think about it is this, because I do understand a bit about Vince McMahon, because I've got some friends who are hard into wrestling, really hardcore fans. And they had made it clear to me that actually he's in shape. Like, you know, people who don't know, he's on the gear.
Oh, he's just to the gills.
He's so jacked. And
He was. He looks fucking awful now.
Oh, no. Obviously, different things occur. But if we think about Craig's ability to be the promoter, but then also jump in the ring, he can.
Yeah.
He's got the skills. He's got the Marek Health on his side. You know, he's got all the elements, and he can also be that big boss guy villain, the millionaire guy who people kind of hate because he's rich and he's living the life, and man, fuck that guy, you know. But then he's got the skills. It's not like he can't show up and kick your ass because he does. So it is so interesting to me, the connect in my mind. I was like, he's not Dana White. He's f***ing Vince McMahon. It's so true.
But I think Dana probably models off Vince McMahon too, actually.
You would say that
I think he's followed up the playbook, but it's just been done at a more sort of professional level.
Yeah, conservative level.
Yeah.
But being that sensational, opinionated,
villainous,
polarizing,
super
character.
villainous, talk shit about the athletes. He had a shit performance tonight.
Yep.
You know, like all that stuff where you're like Shatri would never talk like that, right?
No.
But yeah, that, or like, you know, f*** you, that's a stupid question. You're not coming next time.
Yeah, get out.
Yeah, like it's all very villainous. This is, you know, this fits in with our boy John Marsh's world building.
Superhero or
Yeah, like are you the hero or the villain? And heroes are boring.
Yes.
And trying to maintain the status quo. And villains are exciting and trying to disrupt the status quo.
Yes.
And like to that point, like they all tick that box where they're all trying to change the way things are.
Yeah. And, you know, Craig disrupted the ADCC. And you could say that, you know, respect to Mo Jassim, he's a little bit boring as a guy. He doesn't have a lot of personality.
No, he doesn't have
He doesn't
a
have
character.
charisma. He's just
yeah.
kind of neutral-ish. And obviously he's a person. He's got a personality of sorts, but he is not actively engaging in this game, which is the entertainment game. And this is what they talk about in the documentary, Mr. McMahon, is the heels and the baby faces and like the heroes and the villains.
Yeah.
And you can see it in certain characters. Like you would say that Tackett is kind of a villain. He's baby face, but if we could look at, say... No. Bro, he knelt on Nicky Ryan's fucking head multiple times. And he was like, yeah, how good's this? I'm kneeling on this guy's face. And you're like, that's a dick move, bruh. I was like, no, I do not accept.
But I think what shines through about the Tackett brothers is that they're super nice guys.
Like I changed my opinion after that. They might be nice guys off the mat, but that was like...
But I reckon if you ask, because it's all about God and it's so happy to be here.
Yeah, I don't know if God's forgiving the kneeling on the face. Multiple
No,
times.
fair that you saw that and like took that, but I would think that they're very much the baby face.
Well, if he did that to you, would you be cool with it? I mean, yeah,
but I'm saying in terms of a brand, if you're trying to compare them to like a counterpart, say in WWE, I'm like, I think they're total baby faces. I tell you who I think is a heel. Like if we're looking at CJR competitors, sure. I think Nicky Rod is a heel.
Yeah.
Right? He's just dark in nature.
Yeah.
Doesn't give much away. He obviously doesn't lean into it too much, but but he comes in with the bad guy energy. I think Hulk is a heel.
Oh,
Hulk
100%.
Hulk comes in with that dark energy.
Yeah. But you got to say that like Xanadu is all peace, love, and bolos,
Xanadu's
right?
super baby face.
So
I would say the Ruotolos, Cade in particular, starting to become a bit villainous.
I wouldn't say that, man. It's all like...
No, they are, but their style of jiu-jitsu is aggressive. It's like, F you, I'm doing it anyway.
No,
and I think that on the mic they're getting a little bit more...
I would disagree. I would actually say the Ruotolos are baby faces and that the Tackett brothers are villains. And this is just perception, right?
How funny. If you're watching on YouTube and sing out,
let us know.
I want to know what you guys think.
Because, I mean, I haven't spent much time with the Tacketts. I have met the Ruotolos twice. They are the nicest. Like, you meet them, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, but wait.
What's not
these
to
are
love?
These are make-believe characters, right? As in, and when we say Craig is a villain, Craig's also a nice guy.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon, I'm sure, unless you were one of the women that
you were sexually assaulted
abused,
by, yeah, sure.
He was probably a nice enough guy, I mean, he actually wasn't. We know that, but
no.
But this is all marketing, right?
But it's interesting.
Like, what's the character you're putting out into the world?
I think this is where we start to see the evolution of jiu-jitsu. How many jiu-jitsu, BJJ folks, submission grapplers are prepared to step up to make that role, right? Because we've got our friend Adele Fornerino with the daddy energy, right?
Yep.
And her calling out, a lot of people really upset with her calling out Fionn.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Really? Because they're like, how dare she talk about Fionn like she was a scrub? Look, I don't think that was actually true, but we've talked about it before.
Like who was a scrub?
About Adele talking like Fionn's nothing.
Oh, right.
But I don't think she did that at all.
Did she throw shade at Fionn?
She didn't. She just said, come on, let's get it on, which is what you need to do, right?
Yeah.
These rivalries are important. And
Jasmine Harsha?
She's a bit
she
villainous. Likes to play the villain.
Yep.
You know? And you would say that Wagner,
bro, he's
he
ultra
leans
villain.
in hard.
Yeah.
But that's important for the dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? And
it's fun to watch too, right? Like that's what you want to see. You want this contrast.
Yeah. And so I believe if we follow this train of thought that Craig Jones is playing the Vince McMahon playbook, how far does it reach? Does Craig own no-gi and then go, you know what? The IBJJF is ripe for disruption. Could we start seeing him leaning in on taking over gi jiu-jitsu and making that the entertainment spectacle it could be with a different rule set, a different environment, and new players, new characters?
You don't have me on that one.
I just think it goes.
Appreciate the enthusiasm.
I think it can go further. I think he's on for world domination.
I think he can go further, but I don't think Guy would play into that strategy. I think that this is what I could imagine, that we see Craig do a crossover into something like the WWE.
You see Craig in the WWE.
Fucking oath, bro. And then he brings Gabby and he brings a couple of Ruotolos, right?
Yeah.
And then you get like I don't know, some Brock Lesnar type in the next CJI, right? Like whoever the current day equivalent is.
Yeah.
Like I could see that, and then it becomes this, and like we've said, it becomes this like worldwide like accepted sport that is super entertaining and dynamic and whatever. Yeah, I could see that happening.
Because you could see somebody just launching off the alleyway wall into a leaping, you know what I mean? Like in the same way, you know, like The Rock would like leap off the high rope and like leg drop somebody. And
Yeah.
like, you could see, not necessarily choreographed, but you could see more of that action happening.
I mean, if we look at a lot of the people that competed at CJI as well,
Yeah.
they were interesting choices, right? Pat Downey, Luke Rockhold,
Wrestlers.
Mackenzie Dern.
Sure.
They were, you know, full respect to those combat athletes, but they were not best of the best submission grapplers to have at that event.
No.
But it's like, who's going to be a wild card that brings new eyes and brings a bit of excitement?
MMA fans, wrestling
That's right.
fans.
And you know, some of those matches delivered in their uniqueness or novelty. Some didn't. Yeah, Mackenzie, right? Like,
Well, no,
but,
you
but
know,
no, she did great, right? Did what she could. But I think that was a very strategic move to go, how do I like diversify this thing to make it way more novel?
I think we could see like a Keanu Reeves coming. I think Craig's pulling Hollywood. He's like Keanu Reeves versus Ashton Kutcher. How do we blow this up Hollywood style? John Wick versus 3.5 Men. I don't know. Like, you know, like you could see something where it does stretch broader than jiu-jitsu to bring that big audience, which blows this the hell up. God, there it is, folks. The new Vince McMahon, Craig Jones. Stay tuned. How big can it get?